Lab, founded in 1996, is a multinational service provider providing calibration, rental, testing, servicing and sales services for test and measurement equipment. Lab Group has achieved many notable honors like API Spec Q1 certification by the American Petroleum Institute, the first third-party calibration service provider in the world to do so.
My name is Sunil Nair. The company that I started and I'm working with is Lab Private Limited, and it's into the business of instrumentation. My childhood is okay. My father was working and my mother was a housewife. Life was not too bad, but then we were all in a certain middle class sort of family. Yeah, it's not that life was tough or anything like that, which many people would have gone through. So I wouldn't say life was very difficult during my childhood days. Like everything else growing up, we went through the basic primary school education, we went to neighborhood schools, and then moved on to secondary school again. And those days it was all about neighborhood schools and not traveling out and those kind of things. I think the only time that I traveled and went out of the neighborhood schools was when I went to when I did my pre-U. Eventually found out that education was still the most important thing to bring you forward. I did engineering. I did my engineering in the US. Again, contemplated staying back and working there because opportunities was a lot more at that point of time. But always had a passion for Singapore. I missed Singapore and I thought that I could come back and do something here. Went on to work for a large multinational company. Worked there for about 3 years and got exposed to different businesses there, where I was responsible for starting certain business arms for that company. My mentor, my boss at that point of time. So I had a chat with him and asked him whether he would be interested in starting something together with me. And at that point of time, the company was going through some, revamp, and they were shutting down. So got frustrated in the whole episode. And what I started, I believed in that particular business, which is what I'm doing now. So I came off. I started the entire business and developed it from then on. Right. Working in that multinational company, you had a regular income and the income was good, but you could not expect that when you left. There were many months that, you didn't have salaries. But we had an investor who had come on board. He was sort of giving us some capital to move along. He's a silent partner. To be honest, I think we didn't really have a very tough time because the business that we did, instrumentation, which involves calibration, testing and all that, was quite a niche area. So there were not many competitors in the market at that point of time, and we offered a very niche service. And being even my partner that I started with, he was an engineer as well. So a lot of technical know-how was involved in this entire thing, and we could contribute very positively. Predominantly, I do three areas of work. One is calibration, which is actually certifying instruments and issuing certificates. And to add credibility to that is we have gotten our laboratory accredited. So we're one of the first few laboratories in Singapore to get accredited by this SEC, which is Singapore Accreditation Council. So there was practically no competition to say at that point of time, so which was quite nice for us. So we identified that niche area, went into those. So besides that, we also got into other areas of testing, which all required sort of accreditations. So now I have quite a number of accreditations, which I can really boast about. Is one is the calibration accreditation, which is actually IEC ISO 17025. I have API, I have US Navy accreditation. So all these are accreditations which will see you in terms of quality, that differentiate your services opposed to your competition. If there's no competition, there's no business. That's typically what is. If there's no competition, the business is not big enough. So there is always going to be competition. But how do you make yourself unique? how do you have a product or service which will stand out against your competition is something that you definitely need to look at. There was no mentor that guided me through to do what I should do and what I shouldn't do. Yeah, but what I definitely need to add on is I had a good pool of staff when I started off 20 years ago, and quite a number of them are still with me. So it's all about forming the right team, the right group of people, looking after them, forming your pillars. So in a business there are basically two categories of people, right? One are the pillars who are very critical, and if they leave, then it's going to be painful for you. And there are people who can come and go. So it's to identify who your key pillars are, get the right people there, reward them, so you are in together. So make sure that they grow when the company grows. We acquired a company in Singapore in 2008, which had an operation in Malaysia because we wanted to go into Malaysia, the most logical, getting into your neighboring country, And with that, we expanded the entire scope into Malaysia itself. So today we have two centers in Malaysia. One is in PJ and the other one is in Labuan. And then we moved on and we worked with a lot of big oil and gas companies. And where I expanded was more of a pull factor rather than a push factor. So wherever these guys operated in the oil and gas sphere, they needed our services. And so we went on to set up something in Dubai, we set up something in India, and now we are also in Indonesia. Around the region where we are probably about 300 people strong. So it's pretty established, it's moving on. So my intention is to basically get the right group of people to run it, whether I'm there or I'm not there. And logically, the next step is to either go and get it listed, do some acquisitions, do mergers and stuff like that. My advice will be, if you can do it on your own, nothing like it. Don't just go in for a partner unless there's something that is substantial he can bring in or bring to the table, which will help you grow. Like what you rightly said, many people get upset with partners. A lot of companies go different ways because they can't see eye to eye. Yeah, when everything starts, it looks great, but then ultimately there should be a mindset that whatever happens, you should part ways, or you should look at this different areas that different people look at. You benchmark certain businesses, certain people who have been successful. But something that you can never do without is the hunger. To me, hunger is the most important. So what I tell most people is, where you want to go depends on how hungry you are. I always term it as, if you are really hungry, right, and then you've got no food to eat, what will you resort to? You beg for food. But if people don't give you food, what do? You'll end up even stealing, right? So it all depends on how hungry you are. So any business will not be successful unless there's hunger in this, the person who is running it. Just do what you can do today and never keep it because the minute you start procrastinating, there's never end to it. So it's always that hunger to do things and do it today, not tomorrow. I mean, this is what I tell my kids, this is what I tell everybody, because tomorrow is different. Once that milestone is passed, you cannot do things that you could have done, which would have put you in, at a certain level. So do what you can do today, don't keep it till tomorrow. I mean, that will be my humble advice.